Crossings, Signals and Trackwork, Part 1. Hi, welcome back to St Blazey Model World. Now before we go any further, I should explain that I tried to do this as a live video in the same way that I made my video at Roach Railway Station, and if you missed that, there's a link to it on the top right hand corner of the screen now. Unfortunately, when I was filming this, there was so much rain bouncing off of the road, and in combination with the traffic on the particular day that I went to film, it just, even with a decent lav mic, I couldn't get any good quality sound at all. So I've had to replace some of the sound files with narration to photographs, but nonetheless I hope you find it interesting. So the first thing we're going to look at is this level crossing, and you'll notice that this one has barriers at both ends and warning lights. It's on an old stretch of railway line. We're in the territory of the GWR, Great Western Railway, here in the UK, and this crossing is one that did not have any form of protection for road users or pedestrians historically, and just a quick bit of background information: because of the high accident rate at uncontrolled level crossings, a few years ago the government here decided that all crossings, or nearly all, needed to have some protection, and that's why this one has a modern system of protection, despite the fact that it's a very old crossing point. In part 2, we're going to look at a level crossing that's a lot more traditional, but they are only about a mile apart, and that will provide a very interesting comparison. I suppose before we go any further, it is worth putting a map on the screen just to illustrate exactly where we are here in the United Kingdom, and for those of you who are not familiar with the geography of the UK, you'll see in the lower left hand corner a big red arrow, and that points to our location. And of course this map is courtesy of Google Maps and Google Earth, completely unmodified as per their guidelines, and please make sure you follow guidelines if you are using material that you do not own. So on this crossing now, we'll look north towards Newquay, and you can see just in the distance there's a couple of signals. There are a lot of flag signals around this particular area. As I've said, it goes back to the GWR, very old infrastructure and systems still in place and in use here, and although many of the signal boxes have been demolished and a few that are still standing, of course, are no longer in use, these flag signals are all over this particular region of the UK railway network. And just as a point of interest, of course, this is the view south from that crossing. We're looking now towards Parr railway station, but the trains that run along here, and there are only trains to and from Parr and a few clay trains, will, once they leave this crossing heading towards Parr, they'll go through St Blazey TMD before they get to Parr railway station, and that will be the subject of another video in this series. So here we are now at the easterly end of Parr railway station. You can see the road bridge on the far left, and of course right in front of us is another one of these flag signals. So here we are looking at Parr railway station from the road bridge, and we're looking down on the station in an easterly in a westerly direction. East lies behind us. You'll notice that there are 3 sets of tracks right in front of us from the bridge. The 2 left-hand tracks are the main up and the main down line, and the line furthest to the left is the one that heads down west towards Penzance, and the second one in from the left is the up line heading east and ultimately into London. If you look at the second platform, which is almost in the middle of the picture, you'll notice that has a line to the right hand side of it, and that line is the breakaway line that feeds Newquay on the branch line. And that is the line that runs through Roach Railway Station that we looked at a couple of weeks ago. One of the first things to note here is this point actuator, and there are a number of points at this station and in the surrounding area. Of course, we are still very close to St Blazey TMD. So you can see there some weathering on the top of it and how it sits. And for those of you working in 00 gauge, the Pico dummy motors, if you like, for want of a better phrase, really are quite good when they're compared to this real thing. Another interesting feature is this catch point, and there are two of these at this station. Now this one, I believe, is left over from when the sidings were of a greater expanse at the station than they are now. But it does protect the main line from any runaway rolling stock. Having changed our position slightly, we get a better view of the two lines on the far right hand side as we originally viewed, and we can see that in the distance they bend round to the right and head off towards Newquay. The passing loop there on platform 2 heads back towards St Blazey TMD, and of course that's essential for feeding the clay wagons, the clay trains, and moving the local DMUs, diesel multiple units, in and out of the storage area at the TMD itself. On the far right hand side we can see one buffer stop with one siding. There wasn't any service rolling stock on there today when we, or yesterday rather, when we took all these images, but quite often you get a plate laying wagon or some other form of maintenance, permanent way, traction equipment on that siding. Now we're back up on our road bridge again, and now we're looking at the railway lines that leave Parr Station heading east towards London. You can see on the right hand side at the top right, left hand side, top left hand corner, some more flag signals are in play, and on our right hand side there is yet another catch point. So lots to see in and around Parr and St Blazey. Still to come in this series, we'll be looking at St Blazey TMD, what remains of the turntable and the roundhouse, and we'll also be taking a visit to St Austell railway station, which has a number of interesting features. I hope you've enjoyed this one. Please take care. We'll see you soon. Bye for now from St Blazey Model World.